I'm Emma Rodriguez, 26 years old, living what I thought was a perfect life in Seattle. My marketing career was booming, my downtown loft was everything I dreamed of, and my life was exactly as I'd planned it. Until that night at 3 a.m. when everything I believed about my family crumbled in an instant. The pounding on my door jolted me awake. Violent, desperate knocking that made my security chain rattle. My bedside clock read 3:17 a.m. Living alone as a woman in the city, late-night visitors were never good news. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, when I heard a weak voice through the door. "Emma, please." I knew that voice. Through the peephole, I saw my younger sister Riley collapsed against my doorframe, barely able to stand. Her usually bright blonde hair hung limp and dirty, her face was gaunt, and she was wearing mismatched clothes that hung loose on her skeletal frame. "Riley." I yanked open the door, catching her as she fell forward. She was burning with fever, her body trembling uncontrollably. "What happened to you?" "Had to get away," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They won't let me get better." My phone buzzed. A text from Dad that made my blood freeze. "If that attention-seeking faker showed up at your place, don't help her. Send her back or you'll regret it too." Growing up in Portland, we looked like the perfect family. Dad was a successful real estate developer, Mom a former physical therapist who'd given up her career to focus on the girls. I was the golden child, honor roll, student council president, full scholarship to University of Washington. Riley was different. Creative, artistic, with dreams of becoming a photographer. She saw beauty where others saw ordinary. But our parents never appreciated Riley's gifts. Where they celebrated my achievements, they criticized her B grades as not living up to potential. Her photography was dismissed as not a real career. Every family dinner became a comparison session where Riley fell short. Everything changed when Riley was 20. She was rear-ended while driving to her community college photography class. The impact seemed minor, no broken bones, no visible injuries. But Riley developed fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition that left her exhausted and in constant pain. Some days she could barely get out of bed. Our parents' response was immediate denial. "You're fine," Mom would say when Riley couldn't attend family events. "Stop being dramatic for attention," Dad would comment when Riley had to drop classes because sitting through lectures became unbearable. I watched their dismissal, but didn't fight hard enough against it. I'd offer weak defenses, "Maybe she really is hurting," but would back down when they unleashed their arguments. They were so authoritative, so certain that Riley was exaggerating. When I moved to Seattle 3 years ago for my marketing job, I felt guilty leaving Riley behind. But life got busy, visits became less frequent, and our once-close relationship dwindled to monthly calls. The distance made it easier to believe what my parents told me, that Riley was getting better but choosing to remain dependent, that their tough love was necessary. I knew Riley was still living with our parents, unable to work consistently. I knew she'd been denied disability benefits twice. What I didn't know was how much worse things had become. Now, staring at my sister's collapsed form in my doorway, I realized how badly I'd failed her. As I helped Riley inside, more texts from Dad flooded my phone. "She's manipulating you. Don't throw away your relationship with us for her lies. We've sacrificed everything for that ungrateful girl." Riley's backpack contained minimal belongings and several prescription bottles I didn't recognize. "Riley, these aren't for fibromyalgia," I said, reading the labels. "This is an antipsychotic." Her eyes filled with tears. "They tell doctors I'm crazy, that I make up the pain. Mom puts pills in my food when she thinks I don't notice." My hands shook as I felt her burning forehead. Riley was mumbling incoherently, her body occasionally twitching. When she became unresponsive, I made my decision. I called 911, ignoring the new flood of threatening messages from my parents. The paramedics arrived quickly. "BP is 85/50, pulse 130, temp 104. One called to the other. The concern in their voices was evident. In the ambulance, I held Riley's limp hand while they worked. "Has she been sick long?" the paramedic asked. I don't know, I admitted, shame washing over me. We haven't seen each other in person for 8 months. At Seattle General Hospital's emergency department, Riley was immediately taken away while I filled out forms, realizing how little I knew about my sister's current medical situation. My phone continued buzzing with increasingly threatening messages from my parents. 3 hours later, Dr. Martinez called my name. Your sister has been stabilized, but I need to discuss her condition with you. In the consultation room, his expression was grave. Miss Rodriguez, your sister is seriously ill. She's severely malnourished and dehydrated, with a kidney infection causing the fever. Most concerning are the medications in her system, antipsychotics and sedatives that aren't indicated for fibromyalgia and could actually worsen her condition. The room spun. She told me our mother was putting medication in her food. Dr. Martinez's expression darkened. What you're describing raises serious concerns about medical abuse. Has your sister been under someone else's medical care? Our parents, I whispered. They manage everything. A social worker and police officer joined us. I showed them Dad's texts, explained what little I knew about Riley's situation, and admitted my own absence from her life. Each admission felt like tearing open a wound. When Dad called, Officer Chin suggested I put it on speaker. Emma Patricia Rodriguez. Dad's voice boomed, using my full name as he did when I was in trouble. What the hell do you think you're doing? Dad, Riley is in the hospital. She's very sick. Of course she is. She's always sick when it gets her what she wants. I thought you were smarter than this. The doctors found medications that could have killed her. There was a pause. You're interfering in things you don't understand. Those medications were prescribed by professionals. We're her legal caregivers. For what condition? They're not appropriate for fibromyalgia. That's between her doctors and us. And Emma, if you continue with these accusations, there will be consequences. I can make your career disappear. Think carefully about whose side you're on. After he hung up, Officer Chin looked grim. That was illuminating. We'll need those text messages, and I'd like you to make a formal statement tomorrow. The social worker, Janet, explained that Riley had been trying to leave our parent home for months. She contacted domestic violence shelters in Portland, but was turned away because she needed medical care they couldn't provide. She tried calling you once about 4 months ago, but your mother intercepted the call and took away her phone for weeks as punishment. Each revelation was a knife, twisting deeper. I was allowed to see Riley in the general ward, where she looked tiny surrounded by machines and 4 bags. Her eyes fluttered open as I approached. Emma, she whispered, you're still here. Of course I am. I'm not going anywhere. A tear slipped down her cheek. Thank you for believing me. No one else did. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead gently against hers. I believe you now, and I'm so sorry it took me this long. I promise I won't let anyone hurt you again. Morning brought harsh fluorescent lights and the steady beeping of Riley's monitors. I dozed in the visitor's chair, my neck stiff. When I woke, I found my parents standing at Riley's bedside. Mom was perfectly dressed despite the supposed emergency trip from Portland. Dad stood in his business attire, hand possessively on the bed rail near Riley's arm. Riley was awake but silent, her body visibly tense with fear. Emma. Mom turned with tears in her made-up eyes. Thank God you're here. We've been so worried about both of you. The performance was flawless, but something had changed in me overnight. I could see the coldness behind Mom's tears, the calculation in Dad's worried expression. What are you doing here? I asked, moving to Riley's other side. Our daughter is in the hospital, Dad replied. Of course we came immediately. After telling me not to help her? Mom's concerned expression faltered. I was upset, Emma. Riley's been increasingly paranoid, accusing us of terrible things. I pulled out my phone. Should I read these texts to the doctor? To the police officer, who took my statement. Dad stepped forward, lowering his voice. This is a family matter, not something for strangers. It stopped being just a family matter when Riley showed up at my door malnourished and drugged. Dr. Martinez entered with hospital security. Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to discuss the treatment plan privately with you. After they left with the doctor, Riley grabbed my hand. They're going to try to take me back. Dad has power of attorney from when I was heavily medicated after a procedure last year. 20 minutes later, raised voices in the hallway drew my attention. Dad was confronting Dr. Martinez, his face flushed with controlled anger. This is outrageous. We're her parents and legal guardians. You have no right to restrict our access. Mr. Rodriguez, the hospital has protocols for cases where there are concerns about patient safety, Dr. Martinez replied calmly. Based on the paranoid ramblings of a mentally unstable girl? We're consulting our attorney. That's your right, but until this is resolved, I must ask you to respect the temporary restriction. Security officers appeared, and my parents left without another word, though not before Dad whispered to me, "You have no idea what you're doing. When this blows up, don't come crying to us." Dr. Martinez explained that the social worker had filed for an emergency protective order based on medical evidence and my police statement. It would keep my parents away temporarily. By afternoon, the real fallout began. My aunt called, distraught. "Emma, what's going on?" "Your mother says Riley's been having delusions and refusing medication for her bipolar disorder." Bipolar disorder? Riley doesn't have bipolar disorder. She has fibromyalgia. The silence confirmed my suspicions. They'd been lying to the whole family. My boss emailed urgently. "Emma, I received a concerning call from your father. He says you're having a breakdown and have taken your mentally ill sister from her caregivers. He mentioned you might need extended leave. Please call me ASAP." They were making good on their threats, attempting to destroy my professional credibility. Social media showed family friends posting vague prayers for the Rodriguez family during this difficult time. The systematic dismantling of my life had begun, just as Dad promised. But seeing Riley sleeping peacefully, perhaps truly safe for the first time in years, I knew I couldn't back down. The following day, Riley was strong enough for a longer conversation with Janet and me. "It started getting really bad about 18 months ago," Riley explained. "After I was denied disability benefits for the second time." "Your parents didn't support your application?" Riley gave a bitter laugh. "Support it? They sabotaged it. Dad told the evaluator I had a history of exaggeration, and Mom suggested my symptoms were psychosomatic." Riley pulled out a small notebook from her backpack's hidden pocket. "I started documenting everything: medications, symptoms, conversations. At first just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind like they said, then as evidence." The journal was filled with dated entries documenting daily medications, side effects, and incidents of emotional abuse. Photos of pills alongside medical website printouts. Most disturbing were screenshots of text messages between our parents. "Increased our sedative. Should keep her compliant for tomorrow's doctor visit. Make sure she doesn't talk to Dr. Williams alone. She's becoming too aware. Hiding pills. Residential facility might be our best option. Found one in Oregon that takes difficult cases." I had to step away, ball rising in my throat. These were the people who had raised me, who I'd trusted completely. "I don't blame you for not knowing," Riley said softly. "They were careful to hide the worst from everyone. They fooled my doctors, our family, even me sometimes." Janet reviewed the evidence carefully. "This appears to be clear medical abuse and financial exploitation." "Riley, did your parents control your finances?" "Dad set up a joint account when I moved back home. My disability checks went straight there. Yes, I was approved about 10 months ago, but I never saw any of the money. Dad said he was saving it for when I really needed it." The weight of the decision before me was immense. Supporting an investigation could mean permanent estrangement and professional consequences. But looking at Riley, I knew there was only one choice. "What do you need from me?" I asked Janet. Over the following weeks, Riley's condition improved dramatically with proper medical care. Dr. Patel, a fibromyalgia specialist, confirmed Riley's original diagnosis and started her on appropriate treatment. "The inappropriate medications you were given likely worsened your symptoms," she explained. "But with proper care, we can significantly improve your quality of life." I took family leave from work, grateful that my supervisor supported me despite my parents' attempts at sabotage. My one-bedroom loft wasn't ideal for two people, but we made it work. I installed grab bars, rearranged furniture, and researched accessibility options. The financial strain was considerable, my savings depleted by medical costs and legal fees. The irony wasn't lost on me that somewhere in Portland, Dad was controlling an account with Riley's disability payments. The legal process moved forward. Criminal charges were filed against our parents for medical abuse and financial exploitation. The temporary restraining order was extended, and attempts to have Riley declared incompetent were rejected. The family fracture widened. Some relatives initially sided with our parents, but became uncertain as evidence emerged. Others closed ranks without question. Childhood friends took sides. My parents' campaign to discredit us grew desperate. 6 months after that terrifying night, Riley and I sat in our apartment. Yes, our apartment, as we decided to make the arrangement permanent. Seattle's spring brought gentle light through our windows. Riley looked different now, healthfully thin rather than gaunt, her hair regaining its shine. Though she still used mobility aids on bad days, her physical therapist was pleased with her progress. "I got accepted," she said, showing me her tablet with an email from Seattle Community College's online photography program. "I can study at my own pace, working around my good and bad days." My career had recovered from the initial damage. I'd even expanded into accessibility consulting, recently completing a project for a disability rights organization. Our parents received probation and mandatory counseling rather than jail time, a result Riley and I had actually advocated for. A permanent restraining order prevented contact. The financial investigation recovered most of Riley's disability payments, with a court-appointed trustee managing the funds until Riley was ready. We'd limited contact with extended family rather than force relatives to choose sides. Some, like Aunt Maria, had come around after seeing the evidence. Others remained convinced Riley was unstable and I was manipulated. "Do you ever miss them?" Riley asked suddenly, gazing out our window. I considered carefully. I miss who I thought they were. I miss the idea of having parents who truly loved us. But the real them?
No.
Riley nodded. "Sometimes I dream Mom is kind, that she believes me and helps instead of hurts. I wake up crying, missing this mother who never existed." That's the hardest part, grieving people who are still alive but were never who we needed them to be. We sat quietly, watching Seattle life pass below. "You know what still amazes me?" Riley said. "How easily abuse can hide in respectable families. Everyone thought our parents were perfect. Dad, the successful developer, Mom, the former therapist who sacrificed her career. Their house was always immaculate for visitors." "People believe what's comfortable," I replied. "It's easier to think a young woman is exaggerating than to accept her parents are systematically drugging her." Riley was starting a blog about chronic illness and medical gaslighting. So many people in my support group have similar stories. My voice matters, and maybe it can help others recognize warning signs. As evening fell, I reflected on how dramatically our lives had changed. The family we were born into had shattered, but we were building something stronger, a chosen family based on truth and genuine love rather than control and appearances. For anyone who might be in a situation similar to Riley's, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it often is. Invisible pain is real pain. Invisible abuse is real abuse. Help is available even when it seems the whole world is against you. The most important thing you can say to someone suffering is simply, "I believe you." Family isn't defined by blood, but by who stands beside you when standing is hardest. It's about support without strings, love without conditions. And sometimes, choosing to protect someone you love means walking away from everyone else.